Hey guys, welcome back to the Cult of Film. We are firmly in spooky season. It's the month of October. It is a Halloween month, and we're going to keep moving on with some of my personal best of for various genre of horror films. As you guys know, we're big fans of horror, good horror. We like to think on the channel, and I'm kind of in my element for this month. I love Halloween. I love this time of year when the leaves change, when the Halloween decorations go up, when we break up the sweaters and the boots and the hot beverages, and we get the candy ready for the kids that are trick or treating, and everybody's having a good time. But an essential part of any Halloween season are good horror films, and it's I see it as my responsibility as a lover of film to give you what I think are the most worthy entries in some of these great genre of horror films. Today, I want to cover what I think are the best witch movies, and we've got some really, really great entries here, I think. And it starts with an absolute classic. Those of you that have watched the channel for a while know that I am a big, big fan of Dario Argento. Dario Argento is one of the big Italian masters of horror, and Suspiria is maybe one of the best examples of not just a witch movie, but it's a great example of just pure aesthetic filmmaking. And Suspiria, 1977, directed by Argento, is one of the most fun movies that I've probably ever seen, one of the best examples of the genre, but just a great example of aesthetic filmmaking and absolutely perfect atmospherically for Halloween. Suspiria is a story about a young woman who has gotten into a ballet school in Berlin. At the top of the movie, she arrives in Berlin to her ballet school where she thinks she's going to be and is, studying ballet. She finally gets to the school, and within like her first night, another young woman disappears. Some odd things start happening. The faculty seems a little off. You have murders occurring, and the fun ensues. And it's basically Susie Banyan, she's the character, has to kind of figure out on her own what exactly is going on, what exactly is going on at her ballet school. What's interesting about Suspiria is that it doesn't have a very strong narrative. It is not heavy on dialogue. It is not particularly sophisticated in its plot at all. And for most other films and most other filmmakers, that should be a huge weakness. But it isn't for Argento. Argento, from his debut, I think he started in the late 60s, early 70s. I think Argento really had something going until about the mid 80s, and he kind of fell off. But from the late 60s through about the mid 80s, he was absolutely on fire with very unique, aesthetic, atmospheric, just incredibly fun visual horror and thrillers. And Suspiria is just the colors in this film are incredible. The visuals, you can go for multiple scenes without there being really any dialogue at all, and the visuals, the set pieces, the costumes, the lighting is so rich, so beautifully done that you don't even notice. And the other big part aspect of Suspiria, as well as frankly all of his films, is they all kind of have a very dreamlike, maybe soft nightmare quality to them. It feels like Suspiria in particular and its sequel Inferno, which he did in 1980, they feel very much like fever dreams. That's probably the best way to put it. That it feels like it's happening, but because there is sort of a playing fast and loose with reality and the laws of physics and the sense of consciousness of the character, that it might as well be a dream. And I think that's probably its biggest strength, and it's what I don't want to say distracts, but I don't have a better word, that distracts you from the fact that it isn't really a really complicated plot, but it is fun. There absolutely is a narrative, though very, very thin one, but it doesn't matter. It's you are from the very beginning, you're grabbed by it. You're on this ride with Susie Bannion, and it's just sort of like this mad dash fever dream, race to the end. And while you're doing it, you are just really just fed through your senses with these incredible visuals. So Suspiria 1977 is absolutely something if you haven't seen it. Also, it is an Italian film, so you better go in being aware that it is dubbed, because all of the Italian films, I think, up until the 90s were dubbed due to a rule that was instated by Mussolini back in the 20s. They couldn't do audio because all scripts and the dubbing had to be approved by the government, because they didn't want any sort of anti-fascist uh, uh, ideas getting through. So be prepared for it being dubbed. I think once you get past that, it's an enjoyable film, as all of these Italian horror films really are. But Suspiria, an absolute classic of the genre, so fun, so interesting, and really atmospheric. It's cozy, fun, exciting horror for Halloween. And fast forwarding to the 90s, The Blair Witch Project, 1999, which I believe still holds the record for most profitable independent film of all time. I actually remember seeing this in the theater as a kid and being genuinely unnerved. And I think I didn't see it again until maybe 10 years later on video, on DVD, and it held up. I think I saw it again maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And at first I was sort of annoyed. I'm like, how did I ever watch this? You've got the shaky, realistic sort of camera documentary style with it. And once I got over that, I don't know, it didn't bother me in the theater. It didn't bother me when I watched it on DVD. But the more recent viewing of it, I got annoyed with. And I just sort of like, okay, just settle in. And of course, you get past it. The camera does settle a bit. And it's so effective, this film. It really is a perfect example of very hyper realistic documentary style filmmaking. And the fact that it's a horror movie just makes everything that happens throughout the film that much more effective. And you can kind of see why it is the most profitable independent film of all time, because they nailed it with this film. And it's probably, of what I have on the list, one of the most gets under your skin because it feels so real. I believe it might be one of the first found footage movies. I think this might be the film that created the found footage genre in film. And God, they knocked it out of the park. Really fun, really unnerving. I don't know that I would finish my evening of Halloween movies with this one. I'd probably end up with Suspiria or something else. But yeah, Blair Witch Project, it cuts a little too close to the chest in that it feels very real, but that's why you got to watch it. Great stuff. Worth your time. This next one, I only discovered, I think, in 2019, 2020. Might have been when we were all in lockdown. I joined Shudder.com, which all of you should do if you're horror fans, you're cult fans, you're sort of just interesting, weird cult films you enjoy. Shudder.com is worth your money. I discovered Lords of Salem, directed by Rob Zombie. Rob Zombie, who is known for his sort of demonic hillbilly genre of films that he does. House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects. He did his remakes of Halloween 1 and 2, which took me a little bit of adjusting when I watched them, but I thought were fun. And he's got his own style, and I love what he does. I think Lords of Salem from 2013, I think it's his best film. And that's not to take away from all of the other films that he's done, because he's an acquired taste. He does a particular thing with his films, and his stuff is kind of brutal. He doesn't pull punches at all. He is very much a child of the 70s grindhouse style, sort of amplified in the violence and the shock of that type of filmmaking. And you either love it or you don't. And I think that Lords of Salem is an excellent witch movie. It channels the 70s so well. The 70s being a time of what they called women's liberation, women's lib, There were a ton of grindhouse horror movies, witch movies that were done in the 70s, and he really captures those themes and sort of the spirit of those types of movies in a very modern sense. He actually shot the whole thing in Salem, Massachusetts, I believe, which is super cool. That all the exteriors, all the locations are in this town where they have the Salem witch trials. So that adds a level to it. But he outdoes himself with the sense of dread, the sense of forbidding, the sense of just pure terror in this film. There's a theme that is played in this film that the main character, played by his wife, Sherry Moon Zombie, and she's excellent in this. I really, really, enjoy her as the protagonist, and she's a woman who she kind of gets exposed to these witches or women who might be witches and some witchcraft, and her life slowly starts to unravel, and it's beautifully done. The restraint that he shows and how he slowly reveals these sort of demonic entities, these demonic forces, matched with a particular theme. And I don't mean like a theme in terms of story. I mean a literal musical theme that is part of the plot of this movie. The main character discovers, is given a record, and this record plays the most sort of spine-tingling, hair-raising, blood-curdling, if you can call it, musical theme that I think I've ever heard in a movie. Like it really, I can't watch this movie. I can watch a lot of horror. I can't watch this movie at night. I'm not watching this movie when I'm alone, and I'm certainly not watching it before I go to bed, because it's so effective. It's so effective, this theme. I don't know if all of the other great pieces of this film, the acting, the makeup, the lighting, the set pieces, what really pulls it together is this theme that you'll hear. I can't even describe what it sounds like. It just sounds truly demonic, and that's what makes the film so effective. I never see this film show up on best of horror films, and it's a real shame, because I think it is his best film. I think he really knocked it out of the park. I keep saying that, but it's an absolute home run of a horror movie, of a witch movie, and you all should see it. Lords of Salem, Rob Zombie, check it out. This next one is one that I have watched multiple times, because it's another, not just a great example of a witch movie, but it's just so well done. It's Robert Eggers' first film, The Witch, from 2015. Robert Eggers, who is on his fourth film. He did The Witch, he did The Lighthouse, he did The Northman, and now he's dropping Nosferatu this December, 2024, which looks incredible. Robert Eggers, he is truly a unique visionary, a unique creative in the space that he does, because he doesn't follow any sort of trends for films. He kind of just seems to be writing whatever he wants, whatever tickles him. I feel like he and Jordan Peele are sort of in that same class of guys. It's like, well, this is interesting to me, and I'm gonna do it because it's interesting to me, and I'm gonna do it the way I want to do it, not what the audience would expect or what industry would expect. And I think that's why his films are so good. They feel so fresh and original. And The Witch, as a first outing of a film, is really great. One, because it's set in the early colonies. It's Anya Taylor-Joy. Excuse me. Anya Taylor-Joy is the sort of the protagonist. Her family of extreme Christians are living in colonial America, and life is really hard because you have to farm, and you have to, just how life was in the 1600s. We take so much of what we have today for granted, and he really builds just how difficult life had to have been in the 1600s. On top of it, this young woman really lives with true Puritan parents. I mean, the term Puritan comes from somewhere, and this is a perfect example of what the Puritans sort of were back in the day, and in some ways maybe still are, unfortunately. But it is an absolutely masterful cast. Again, incredible atmosphere. Unlike a film like Suspiria, there is plenty of meat on the bone of narrative. You have sort of the tensions going on in the house between the young girl. It's her younger brother and younger sister. Uh, everything bad that happens, the family interprets as them not being in God's favor, that they somehow must have done wrong if something has gone bad, and then things start to go bad. And I won't say exactly why it is. There seems to be a push and pull between, okay, is it natural forces why they lost a cow? Why maybe something's wrong with the crops, or is something more sinister at play? And we follow this sort of terrible set of circumstances that this family starts to go through. We see it through or I should say the eldest daughter, played by Anya Taylor Joy, who, what a talented woman. This film's almost 10 years old, so talented young woman she is. The whole cast is truly incredible, but you could see what talent Ms. Joy had in this film. And I don't recall hearing much of a score. Certainly, you don't have a soundtrack in a period piece from 1600s, but I don't really remember much music, and I think that's kind of what makes it creepier. It really is sort of classic period colonial witch story making and film making. It feels so bleak, it feels so stark. At the same time, it feels really rich. It feels so familiar, whether you're somebody who grew up religious or not. There's something familiar about this movie and the concept of witchcraft and the devil and redemption. And I had a friend who was he's a pretty devout Christian, and he was impressed at how accurate the family's understanding of Christian theology is in this movie. So it's not sort of like just a general Christianity that you will see in a lot of horror films, and it's never really it never goes any deeper than that. Eggers really did his homework on this. I don't know if he was maybe raised Christian or was raised evangelical or whatnot, but if you have any exposure to Christian theology, it's impressive what he does with it, and it helps create the stakes. And you can't help but feel for this family because they're so convinced that when something bad happens, it's on them and that they're being punished. And it's just, it's heartbreaking, but effective and really fun. And you have to add The Witch to your must-see witch movies because it's a classic of the genre. Last entry, technically, I guess, could be a witch movie. It could be a devil movie. I'm going to list it as a witch movie because it's so good. I've watched this movie maybe 3 times in the past couple of years. Hereditary, 2018. I believe this was Ari Aster who did this, if I'm not mistaken. Hereditary, first of all, incredible cast in this film. You've seen everyone who's in this movie in something else. It also is a masterclass, not just in horror movie filmmaking, but in cinematic restraint. There's so many films, horror films or witch movies, that you're maybe 10 minutes in and things are flying around and you've got CGI this and CGI that they don't give you the time to build up and build up and build up a sense of suspense, tension, and investment in the characters. And that's what they do very beautifully in Hereditary. And when things start to go weird, they get really weird. And again, what's so effective with Hereditary, like something like the Blair Witch Project, is obviously it isn't a found footage movie, it isn't documentary style, but it feels way more real because you have been exposed to sort of the domestic life of this family, of the frustrations that the mother's dealing with and the frustrations that the son is going through, and the daughter feeling alienated. And it really just builds a sense of sort of human complexity and dynamics that makes you really believe this. Okay, these are real people with real lives and real concerns and hopes and dreams and worries. And then on top of that, they start to introduce the weird happenings and sort of the mystery of the film, which I won't even I won't start to dig into. For Hereditary, let alone all of these films that I've mentioned, don't watch trailers, don't YouTube or Google any scenes, just jump in because Hereditary in particular, like all these films, but Hereditary in particular is so rich. Hereditary is one of those horror movies that still has me watching YouTube videos of analysis on what it's based on, the mythology that exists within the movie. The Sorry, guys, a little bit of a technical glitch there. I just wanted to finish out on Hereditary. One of among all of the great, cool things that Ari Aster does in this amazing movie is how he weaves this mythology of King Paimon and the different kings of hell. And it once you've sort of watched this movie a couple of times, I mean, it's not essential to enjoying the movie, but because this movie is so compelling and so interesting, I find myself watching it a lot. And I've researched that whole myth on King Paimon, the Kings of Hell, all of that. And once you know a bit about it, it does make the movie a bit richer. So don't be afraid to go down the rabbit hole on Ari Aster's Hereditary. Even if you don't want to, just the cast is so stacked. You have Toni Collette, Ann Dowd, you have Gabriel Byrne, Alex Wolff. It's quite the, I don't know, I wouldn't say super Hollywood horror film, but anyways, see it. Yeah, so those are, in my expert opinion, some of the best witch films that you can see. I watch a lot of movies, and I try to curate what I think are sort of the best examples of the genre. And these are all very different films. They're all different flavors of, I think, what a witch film could be. And I think that's kind of the fun. So again, if you're as big a fan of Halloween as I am, and you're as big a fan of just well done genre films or well done films in general, you owe it to yourself to check out these witch films. So if there's anything I missed, if you think there's something that should be added to the list, please comment below, share with me. I'm always down to watch more films. And thanks again for watching. Please like, subscribe, share. We appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next one.